Welcome back to AI for Founders. I'm Ryan Estes. Today's episode starts with the tension every founder feels but rarely admits. What do you do when the talent you need doesn't exist in your own backyard, but exists in abundance halfway across the world? My guest is Nico Bivero. He spent 22 years in Asia and 15 years in the Philippines building Penbrothers, one of the original offshore team powerhouses that helped startups scale before offshoring became a buzzword. His company has supported 1,500 employees, partnered with 90-plus global startups, and sits at the center of a massive shift in how founders build teams in the age of AI. In this conversation, you're going to learn how founders should think about global talent, why Filipinos consistently outperform expectations, what roles are perfect to offshore, and what roles you should never outsource. You'll also learn how AI culture and human psychology collide when you build teams across continents. If you're a founder, operator, or anyone building with AI who wants to scale with precision, not chaos, this one's for you. And if you want the kind of founder insights that feel like a Geistblitz to the skull, get the newsletter at aiforfounders.co. If your group chats are tired of your AI hot takes, outsource them to me. Sign up for aiforfounders.co. If you only read one newsletter this year, make it ours. If you read more than one, still make it ours. And if this episode teaches you something new, leave us a review. Consider it your weekly act of kindness toward the algorithm gods. This episode is sponsored by Kitcaster, the world's best podcast booking agency for founders who want to grow their companies through conversations. If you're building something big, you need distribution, and showing up on top podcasts is still one of the fastest ways to generate sales, earn trust, and build a category. At Kitcaster, we book you on shows that already have your customers' attention. We prep your talking points, handle all the logistics, and make sure every interview creates a ripple effect across your brand, content engine, and pipeline. Kitcaster has booked thousands of founders, generated millions in earned media, and helped companies turn conversations into conversions. If you're ready to get your story told in rooms that matter, go to kitcaster.com/application and apply. Kitcaster, where founders go to become the voice of their industry. Kitcaster by Moburst. Nicole, thanks for joining us. How are you? And welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm great. I'm a tail end of a business trip, so as you can see in my face, I look a little bit puffy and tired, but that's part of the game. Yeah.
How dare you? You're a beautiful man. Did you say you're in Thailand?
No, I'm actually in the States right now. I'm stateside, so I'm currently just finishing a three-week trip around the United States for different client meetings and prospect meetings and conferences. Really interesting to be here.
Amazing. And where are you based typically?
Normally in the Philippines. I've been in Asia for 22 years and in the Philippines for almost 15 years by now. It's been a long time.
Incredible. And I detect an accent. So are you from like Alabama? Are you from the South?
No, I'm not. I'm not American, actually. So my father is actually from South America and my mom is German. I used to have a very strong German accent, sounding a little bit like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then I tried to make it go away by trying to have a more South American accent. And I ended up with something that nobody really knows where it's from.
You don't sound like you're from Alabama. I was just giving you a hard time. Yeah, it's very interesting. You know, I assume you speak German?
Yes.
Okay. I was actually recently just looking for a German word. I was tipped by a friend that there's a German word for everything, right?
You pretry much. So you combine words to make something that expresses something. Yeah.
Yeah. So the word was, and I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation. I have a terrible accent, but it's Geistesblitz.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was trying to describe, and tell me if this is the word, is there's something that happens, particularly in conversations. Like I'll be interviewing folks like you and having a great conversation, and something you'll say will spark a story, and the story will be a perfect summary of what you're trying to say, and also take the conversation to a new place. And so as you're kind of speaking, I'm just waiting to kind of tell the story. And then when you finish, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. It makes me think of something. And then I go to tell the story, but it's completely gone. It's like, it's completely gone. And then I'm sitting here and I'm just like, oh man, I forgot what I was going to say, but it seemed like it was a great story. And then you would say, hey, no problem. It happens to me all the time. And then I'm like, no, wait, I got it. And then it comes back, it pops back in. And then I'll tell the story that's perfect. And it takes 10 minutes to get through the story. So I'm just kind of very interested on like what it is, like how can you have this giant story that is a perfect match for the conversation and it evaporates somewhere, but then it pops back in its totality. So I was asking GPT about that, and it was basically saying like it has to simmer in your subconscious, like your subconscious sucks it down in there, and then it like spits it back out. And I was like, yeah, there's got to be a German word for this. And they're like, yes, Geistesblitz. And I was like, all right.
That's interesting. I would have to double check that. I mean, Geistesblitz is actually it can mean different things if I remember correctly in my German, because it can also mean like an aha moment. It's not necessarily a story that disappeared and then came back. It can be that, but it actually connotates a little bit more than that. It can also be, those Eureka moments, like when somebody's in the shower and suddenly has this moment and figured out the DNA helix or stuff like that. So that's kind of what it really connotates. But then, yes, I can see how when you have something on the tip of your tongue, like there's this thing, it disappears and it comes back. It goes into that way.
Okay.
I think maybe my aunt wouldn't agree with it. I'm actually going to ask her. Yeah, she's a German teacher, so I'm going to ask her if she agrees with that interpretation of the word.
I'd appreciate it because, yeah, it does seem a little bit different because on one side, you bump your head on the sink and you have the vision of the flux capacitor, which is maybe that's the better one. But it's like this weird moment that I'm thinking about that I don't know if there's research done on it where you just lose your train of thought. But
happens to me all the time. I mean, no, seriously, I swim and I jog. And sometimes, specifically when I swim, I have this moment where I'm like, I have this great idea, but if I don't, because I'm swimming, I obviously am not writing it down or taking note of it. By the time I'm done swimming, it's gone. And then maybe it comes back some point in time, but normally it doesn't. So it's
interesting.
It's
interesting. But it probably comes out in other ways. There's like kind of this old idea that like your best ideas come to you when you're in motion or you're in water. So it's interesting that you said in the shower was the first example. And then when you're swimming, if you're swimming, you're both in motion and in water. And so do you find yourself like having a lot of creative ideas?
I don't know if my ideas when I'm in motion, be it running, swimming, or any other activity, if they're I wouldn't necessarily call them creative, but what they are for me, they solve a particular challenge that I'm having or a particular problem. So maybe that is creativity in another way. And it's not necessarily because I'm thinking about it, but it suddenly comes to me. So the way I look at those activities is a little bit like active meditation. Active in the sense that you're moving, and then meditation because you're able, or at least I am able, sometimes, not always, to let my brain wander, like let my thoughts like flow, and then suddenly one of those thoughts can actually be a very creative or to the point idea how to fix something or how to change something or how to. So yeah, there is an element of creativity, but for me, it's because of that. Letting my thoughts flow because I'm active doing something and not focusing on something specific. I don't know if that kind of makes sense, but that's how it is for me. Yeah.
No, it definitely does. Do you have meditation practice?
No, so that's actually the funny thing. I tried meditation. I mean, I've been living in Asia for 22 years. There is a lot of meditation over there. I used to do martial arts. We also pretend that we do a lot of meditation. And I'm saying pretend because honestly, sometimes when I looked around, people were honestly sleeping. But no, when I sit down and try to have that like meditation kind of thing, it doesn't work for me. But if I'm active, then my brain is more able to disconnect and maybe then have those moments of, oh yeah, that's a great thought. But getting older, I need to make an effort to actually either keep it in mind or write it down. Otherwise it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Yeah. Interesting. When I was talking to GPT about this, it used the word incubate. That the idea has to incubate in your subconscious. But I kind of wonder if that's true or if it is just like kind of in this like ethereal conscious field. And I'll put it like this. I've been a meditator for a long time. I like different techniques, but the stuff I'm really attracted to is the Dzogchen style, or they would call it effortless mindfulness. Mm-hmm. And so you have these techniques that are able you to kind of like slip into the feeling of expansive, open, it seems to be intelligent, basically the rudimentary amount of our consciousness that's so simple that we just totally ignore it. It's the consciousness that everything passes through, whether you're happy or sad or talking or not talking. It's always there, so you just miss it. Now, it's not easy, but it's simple. And the Dzogchen tradition has like these way that they call them glimpses of a way to like put your attention there. And I was just thinking that like when you can't remember something, this is like it's a great tool to like understand and to be able to just witness like this kind of permeating consciousness that always exists, largely because it's almost like your whole brain just like shuts down and you're just sitting there and you're like, what is here? And what's there right then is the thing that's always there. You just notice it because there's nothing else kind of like cranking through. So I was curious. I was like, maybe it's your subconscious, or maybe the idea is in some kind of like massive bio-consciousness that connects all things. I don't know. I don't know.
Not sure. I honestly not sure. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess the brain and what happens in the background is massively more complicated than we give it credit or that we realize. And then, so there are things happening in the background, connections, ideas, thoughts, that sometimes, as you said, like they bubble up and then we have them, or sometimes they don't, or they disappear again. So it's interesting. It's the same with emotions. I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of emotions that we're living through them constantly all the time, but we're not necessarily aware of them. And I guess sometimes those two things are connected. I mean, most times, I guess all the time.
100%. Man, thanks for that little conversation there. And ask your aunt. I'd be really curious, and maybe she's got a better word, because I really lean on, the Germans to give me the right names and the right words. They're so good at that.
Estes splits, yeah. I wonder what the Bedeutung. Let's do the German immediately. Yeah, so plötzlicher guter Einfall. It's exactly that, like a genius, like a something that comes to you, like a great idea, but that comes like out of nowhere. Yeah, a flash of genius.
A flash of genius. Okay. Okay. Well, I don't think I've ever had one of those, but it's something like that. It's something like that. Anyhow, that's a great transition to talk about your wonderful company, Penbrothers.
I don't know how, but fair enough.
We just do the hard pivot. You know what I mean? I'm very interested in your company, largely because you're kind of one of the originators. You help people build their offshore team in the Philippines. And I've been fortunate enough to work with a half dozen Filipinos, in different capacities. And I've just found them to be wonderful people, unbelievably intelligent, competent. Their English is great, So I would love for you to give us a little bit of introduction about Penbrothers, largely because this seems to be an exploding category of business right now, where companies are looking to democratize their talent and are looking outside the US borders to do it. So give us a quick introduction to Penbrothers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for that. So Penbrothers itself is, what we try to provide is what you said, is building teams in the Philippines, finding the right talent and the right people for companies that are looking for talent for different reasons. And they might be actually looking for talent here in the US, but they're not able to find it, or not able to find the right talent, or not able to find talent that is willing to do things the way they're necessary. And so then looking farther abroad is one option to mitigate that problem. And so Penbrothers is a brainchild of ours, of my best friend and myself, that came together about 11 years ago, because he was exactly in that situation. He had a company, he needed to scale, he needed to hire people, and he was struggling to find the right people. I had already had the experience and the opportunity of actually building teams in the Philippines for my previous employer. And I was, as you said yourself, very fortunate to have worked already at that time for 7-8 years with Filipinos, building together really interesting businesses in the Philippines, and being exposed to how good they are, how dedicated they are, how talented they are, but also how good of a team members and they are. Like, their personality leads to being really good members of a team. And so that experience on my end was something that I felt there is an opportunity here. There's something we can do that small companies don't really have access to. Yes, the Fortune 100 companies, they have big teams. So I think 80 plus of the Fortune 100 companies actually have big teams in the Philippines and are growing. But how can this be provided also to smaller companies, to startups, to SMEs, to companies that cannot go to the Philippines and just build an office of 100, 200 people, but want 1 or 2 person to start with? That's where the whole this Geistesblitz came from in our case. And we actually had that aha moment at the beach when he was explaining to me his challenge. And I was saying like, well, I've been wanting to do this because I think Filipinos are great. And I think it would be great to also enable them to have the opportunity to work for interesting startups and SMEs without actually having to leave the Philippines. Because the Philippines, one of the main challenges of countries like the Philippines, and the Philippines in particular, there is something called the brain drain. Until recently, people had to leave to really get interesting, good, highly paying jobs. So this is a little bit of an opportunity of actually reversing that or minimizing it by actually having them have those great jobs, but without leaving the Philippines. And at the same time, enabling companies in the States, in Europe, in Australia, in other places, to build really, really great teams with highly motivated, smart, perfectly English-speaking talent.
Yeah. 100%. I totally agree. Is there anything about the Philippines aside from like their culture and personality? Is there kind of like a legal benefits that they're incentivizing companies to come and use their talent?
There is, but it's not necessarily required to use it. So yes, the Philippine government has created various systems over the last, actually don't know for how long historically, but it's been around for a while. One of them is called PEZA, so the Philippine Economic Zone Authority, which allows you to build teams in buildings or zones where buildings are PEZA certified and thereby have certain degrees of tax incentives. But you can also do that, for example, the Bureau of Investment has other tax incentives, again, for companies, for foreign investor or foreign companies to come to the Philippines and do that type of business. So there are different incentives. Obviously, the Philippine government itself is trying to promote this type of companies or businesses in the Philippines. But it's not necessarily a necessity that you need to have an incentive like that to actually make it work or to set it up, either by yourself or with a company like ours, to be very honest.
Yeah, amazing. If somebody's considering, hiring Philippine talent from Penbrothers, what are some roles that are just tried and true? What would you put in, let's say, a startup? Most of the audience here are either venture-backed startups, some bootstrap startups. People are taking small teams. They want to be very careful about the roles that they're hiring for, and they want to make sure like they're going to get people on the team that are worth their weight. So what would be some great roles that they should consider?
We always recommend to start with very process-oriented roles, things that can be done remotely. And it applies the same. I mean, even if you would be let's say a startup in Houston, Austin, and you hire somebody, let's say give me an example, somewhere in the United States. I mean, there is already a distance. So the same applies to the Philippines. So ideally, the low-hanging fruits, the easier to set up roles are really roles that are very clear, very process-driven, so that it's very simple to align and to make sure that what you're expecting the person to do, who is sitting across the globe, is really doing it and you're able to monitor it. So let me give you examples. Accounting are, for example, those type of roles. HR support, but also customer success and onboarding of new clients, because those are very process-driven. You have a client journey, you know exactly what the journey is, or you have defined it to a very large degree. And now you're executing on it, and you need people to execute on it. Other roles actually that we see a lot is software development. Again, software development, yes, you need to be in some sense creative, but at the same time, you need to know how to code, and you need to know how to do the process of coding. Again, we see a lot of that also as something that it's easier to start. It gets more tricky when you go to more creative roles, like marketing and creating marketing campaigns. That's tricky because you need that interaction constantly with the person. And that's not that easy to do it when you have the distance and the time zone also difference. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Let me hit you with some math that will blow your mind. A wealth manager using warmstart.ai grew their assets under management by 8.5 million in 3 months. Their monthly fee, $500. That's a 1,700% return on investment in 3 months. And I get it, another AI tool, another monthly subscription. But here's what makes Warmstart different. It's not trying to find you new people to bug, it's helping you reconnect with people who already know you. As a founder, your biggest asset isn't your product or your website, it's your relationships. But most of us are terrible at nurturing them systematically. Warmstart connects your email, identifies warm contacts, and helps you craft personalized outreach that doesn't sound like a robot wrote it. The best part, you review every message before it goes out. No automation without permission. If you're ready to stop leaving money in your inbox, try warmstart.ai. Use code AIFF for $50 off your first month because the ROI on your existing relationships is probably better than any investment you'll make this year. That's warmstart.ai and use code AIFF. Now, you and I know startups aren't built in boardrooms. They're built in the wild, during 3 a.m. bug fixes, botched launches, and that one meeting where everything almost fall apart. That's what Code Story is all about. It's a podcast where tech founders break down the make or break moments behind their products, what went wrong, what went right, and what nearly wrecked everything. Hosted by Noah Labhart, Code Story goes past the highlight reel and into the honest stuff. Late pivots, brutal bugs, and somehow coming out alive with a product people actually love. If you're in the build stage, or the scale stage, or the please let this feature work stage, I can relate. This show will speak to your soul. Listen to Code Story at codestory.co or wherever you get your podcast. Just search Code Story, it'll be right at the top. Because great startups aren't born, they're forged, one hard moment at a time. codestory.co. That's interesting because that's actually an area that I have had success is, I've had great success hiring VAs for like outbound marketing, like outbound emails, setting up those kind of systems for doing video editing, which is also kind of a fun way to test because you can say, hey, whatever tech stack you're most comfortable in, I want you to make a video that looks like this. And so by just giving examples, then they can kind of copy it, whether they're using Adobe or they're in CapCut or Descript, whatever they're working in. But I've had some great success with that too, because within certain parameters, which is just to say, here's the kind of example that we're looking for. And that's happened with like, artwork or marketing assets, creative assets for sure. Here's the vibe, here's the energy, here's the brand standards. Go see what you can do. That's worked out really well. And then I think because of the fluency factor, with Filipinos, it seems like everybody is raised with English as either a first, second language, So for where it's important to me is like podcast editing,
Yeah.
they understand the cultural terminology. They understand me. I mean, I can barely pronounce anything in English, so they can like recognize like what I'm trying to say, chop it up so it's coherent and it's a better product on the outside, which was some things that I was kind of skeptical of is like, man, there's probably cultural abnormalities. I speak decent Spanish with a horrible Spanish accent, but if I was chopping it, if I was editing a video, it'd be like, oh man, I don't really understand the humor or anything. I wouldn't get the jokes, but I found that they do a really good job with that. Now, maybe talk about, what about more advanced roles? Is that something would be great for Penbrothers? I mean, you talk about like computer engineers for sure, but if we're getting into like management or maybe getting into like AE and like sales roles, do you have success finding placements for those?
I mean, it depends on the role specifically, and again, depends on the maturity of the organization that it's trying to hire those roles. I mean, if you are a relatively young startup and you're still trying to figure it out, and then you go very senior, and that senior person now needs to figure it out and do it themselves, then it can work. But it's more tricky. It's less likely to work. But if you are a more mature company and you know exactly what you're looking for and what you're doing, and you have also your KPIs and your way of monitoring and evaluating and so on and so forth, then yes, it can. I mean, Philippines has very good people. I mean, it's a big economy. We have about 110 million people. It's a large economy. As I said a while ago, 80 plus of the Fortune 100 companies have built big own teams, like shared service teams. with people who do all kinds of things. I'm not talking about call centers or BPOs. I'm talking about really sophisticated operations that they have going out there. And going back to the marketing that you said, yes, I mean, a lot of the big marketing companies actually have big teams in the Philippines to do a lot of support for the global operations. So you can find, but then what happens is the amount of people that you have in the talent pool then becomes quite narrow. It's not like it's not the same talent pool that you have in America or Northern Europe, where it's much bigger because a lot of people have been able to gain that experience, have been able to rise up to that rank. So you do have good people and you can make it work. It just takes more time finding the right person.
Yeah.
And really making it work for you. Yeah.
Cool. And kind of the way I've been thinking about it too is, I've, the last 4 or 5 months been just building so many agents, AI agents and agentic solutions to problems and really automating on next level stuff with whether it's like N8N or experimenting with all these different platforms that really you want to be able to set it and forget it, but you just can't. You do need somebody monitoring and maintaining it. So, for folks like this, where it's like, okay, I have these 50 agents and the agents are monitoring the agents so that when it's broken, it can call you, and then you can get in there and make sure that the keys, the passwords, and like just maintain all this because, truly we're probably 2026, startups, companies similar to mine will have, swarms of agents doing all kinds of different solving technical problems.
Yeah.
But it's good enough to be dangerous, but it's also bad enough to be highly irritating to always be fixing it. So it's like hiring somebody whose specialty is like maintaining AI agents will be huge. And I think that's going to be really big for kind of Philippine VAs. I'm excited to see how you can use
We're seeing that happening already. I mean, because at the end of the day, the funny thing about those agents is, yes, they take a lot of the work you do away, but at the same time, you still need to monitor. You still need to make sure that it's giving the correct answers. It's not becoming completely creative or crazy. Let's call it that way. So, and that still requires a human and somebody with a little bit of common sense or knowledge. So it's
absolutely
a different universe right now.
Yeah. I mean, being close to AI, the I is highly exaggerated. There's a lot of amazing things it can do, obviously, but like this kind of threat of AGI or like there's some kind of sentience in the box, boy, there really isn't. The more you work with it, you're like, ooh, the limitations start to drive you really crazy. So you need the human in the loop. And oftentimes what's going to happen is like, if you don't have the time to be able to monitor a swarm of 50 agents, like you need to hire somebody. I think it's going to be a huge boon for your business in particular. Let's talk about pricing. So I'm a startup. I want to begin with a VA part-time, very specialized kind of person doing a very specialized task. What is kind of the cost broadly? Maybe there's a range for a part-time, full-time. How do you determine pricing?
Well, that's really interesting. Thank you for putting me on the spot here. I actually am not 100% sure, to be very honest. The way we work is it's a very transparent cost plus model, to call it like that. So meaning to say, let's use a VA. So you will give us a job description and you will say like, well, this is the person I want. This is the skill set. This is the experience level. We will then start looking for the right candidates and give you some calculations. Okay, like somebody with 5 years, this is the take home salary, this all the benefits, and this is our management fee on top for the monthly employment, and us being your HR business partner in the Philippines. For somebody with 7 years, somebody with 10 years or different experience. Or for example, somebody who already has experience managing and fixing AI agents, well, this person commands this amount of salary because it comes with that experience. Mm-hmm. It's really person by person different. What is the same is the management fee we have on top. So it's a very transparent model. And then you can really see, okay, if for this skill set, it will cost me, I'm now going to throw out random numbers, to be very honest, $2,000 a month. And for this skill set, it's only $800 a month. So then you also, while doing the selection and the interviews, you can really also manage your own budget and your own requirement, because sometimes companies come or people come and say like, well, I want the best of the best. I'm like, yeah, but the best of the best also in the Philippines is not cheap. So
of course. Yeah.
do you really need all those skills and this 20 years of experience, or are we now going crazy in the sense that you're overkilling it? So that's the model how it works. Now, a VA, I honestly, good question. I don't want to put a number here because I don't remember. I don't know, to be very honest.
There's a range. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, so executive assistant, virtual assistants, I mean, honestly, the range is wide. I mean, if you want somebody to just do your scheduling and booking your flights and stuff like that, then obviously that's on the lower end range. And then if you want somebody who really is your right hand and maybe even jumps on calls for you and can represent you, that's a completely something else. I mean, it's almost like a chief of staff. So the range can be very wide. Yeah.
It's a huge gap. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And then from like kind of a vendor standpoint, then am I basically paying Penbrothers? Penbrothers takes care of everything. One number, let's call it $2,000 a month. I paid them. You're handling all the compliance, taxes, any kind of fees and whatever has to go through the Philippines, and then also paying the staff on the backside?
That is correct. So the person will then become our employee. We are legally the employer, and we take care of everything which is with legal compliance and payroll and all that. The person, though, is assigned uniquely to our clients. So we don't move them around. It's not like you have now a great VA and then 6 months later, I'm going to move that person to somebody else because, I need to provide a great VA to that person. I think what's important in our model, it's something that I'm very, I wouldn't say proud is maybe the wrong word, but something I insisted from the get-go. I always wanted to make it clear to the client. So it's not like, oh, here's a $2,000 invoice, but you don't know how much goes to the employee. We always break it down and show it, because for us, it's important to be transparent about that, because when you don't do that, and I'm not saying everybody does this, but when you don't do it, when it's just a flat number, there might be a tendency or an opportunity to start reverse tendering, to start pushing down the salary of the person, which it's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this also to create really exciting, great jobs with a good salary for the Filipinos. It's not about taking advantage of the Filipinos. It's about bridging the talent with the companies and providing a great service with a fair wage.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I think people are afraid that other people are getting exploited poorly.
And it happens. Unfortunately, it really happens, and it's actually very sad. And it shouldn't happen, but it unfortunately does happen. And we do come across people who really come with that mindset. It's like, listen, I don't want to pay this. I want to pay below minimum wage. I want to eat. And we're like, well, then, first of all, that's the wrong approach, because you're not going for quality. Second of all, is like, we don't want to work with you.
It's unethical. It's unethical. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you get great value with Filipino talent because the cost of living there is way different, than it is in the States. And, some people may be critical of that, but there's already precedents in the States. Like if you get a job in Idaho or a job in New York City, the salaries are going to be commensurate of like what it cost of living is,
And they have to be. Otherwise,
they have to be. Yeah.
They have to be. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, so it's helpful. Plus, I think for the Philippines or Mexico or Romania or, wherever it may be, like to your point, you don't have the brain drain, even in the States, it's a major problem here. I know in Tulsa, they're going to great lengths to try and keep college grads, give them like some cool incubators, give them some opportunities and some resources to create their startups in Tulsa, because Oklahoma just doesn't happen to be the fulcrum of innovation. You know what I mean? People are all going to Austin, or they're going to Seattle, they're going wherever they're going. But it creates that incentive, in the States, to people to compete for that talent. So, because startups, companies from across the world are investing in the Philippines, and it allows for them to like benefit by having the talent stay home. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's amazing. As we're thinking about the future, and, I mentioned like there's opportunity with AI and outsourcing, and people are looking for creative solutions. What's the Geistesblitz of the next 10 years? How are you thinking about it?
That's a good question. I think for us is specifically, it's about quality and the quality of the talent, the quality of the processes that we provide, the quality of our support to both the client as well as to the employees. So it all comes down to quality, like really being a high quality service provider to our clients as well as also to the employees, so that the employees felt taken care of, know that everything is done well, that they have the support they need, that if they have a pregnant partner, if they have an issue, if they have an accident, we're always there and we support them. And the same with the clients, that if they want team building, if they want learning and development, if they want to build a separate team because now they're expanding or they're doing something else, that there is a high quality consultative support from us for them. And so instead of, we decided very early on, and I'm saying we on purpose, my co-founder and I and our CFO, to really go deep when it comes to the quality instead of going wide when it comes to, okay, let's now do also Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Mexico, South Africa. It's attractive, because you want to, sometimes clients knock on the door and say like, hey, can you provide me Spanish speakers? Well, we don't have operations in Mexico or in Colombia. Could be attractive, but at the same time, can I do that with the same quality that I can do it in the Philippines? Not really. I'm not there. So we decided to focus on the Philippines and go in quality. Now, the second thing that we're focusing on is also, when you say AI, is really ensuring that everybody we employ is AI enabled. It doesn't mean that they're AI specialists, but at least they understand the basics. They know how to use it. They know how to build on it, because it's like, and if you hire an accountant nowadays who doesn't know how to use Excel, well, it's useless. Now, in the future or already, if you hire anybody who doesn't know the basics of AI, it becomes an impediment. So we're trying to make sure that everybody gets that leg up, because it will be needed. It will become necessary to understand at least the basics and then build on that. Yeah.
Go a little bit deeper about quality, because I'm singing the praises about Filipinos over here, but I could do the same about, somebody else might say that about Coloradans, and I'd be like, yeah, there's a lot of knuckleheads here too, though. So you do have to like have a great screening and filtering process. How do you, what's the on-ramp like for folks that you work with?
So the quality I'm talking about starts already in the recruitment side. So it needs to be a recruitment system and process and selection that really filters out the knuckleheads, as you like to call them, the ones who will not be successful. But it goes beyond that, because I can find you a great person, but then if I just give you the person and then don't support you on the whole process of onboarding the person, of both into our company because we're the employer, but also to you. Let's say you are a brand new client and it's the first time you use a Filipino talent, and I also need to make sure I onboard you on the cultural difference, on how to work with Filipinos, how to make it. So it's the quality of the client journey and the employee journey to make it successful. That's what we're doing. That's where we're investing in. And that's where I believe, hopefully, that will make the difference, so that, because let's say your first employee is a success, your onboarding is a success, your overall experience is successful, you will then hire a second person, a third person as you need, But if the first moment is not successful, you will not do it again. You will have burned yourself. You will be very frustrated. So it's not just recruitment, it's the whole journey from the moment you start talking to us for the first time to even the moment you tell us like, hey, this person unfortunately is not working out. Like, I need to improve the person, or I need to let the person go. Let's find somebody else. So it's that whole process. And on the same level for the employee, because they also need to feel that they're taken care of, that they're heard, that they get not just the basic service, but better than that, that they have community, that they have events they can attend, that they have online events they can do, and things like that. And all of that actually takes effort. But that's what I'm trying to always say. We are your HR partner in the Philippines. We do what your HR otherwise would ideally do for any employee stateside, for example. Yeah.
I love it. Totally makes sense. Yeah. Everybody wants to have a good job,
And a good experience while having a good job.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Around that too, it's like, unfortunately, I've had terrible experiences. We all have. I wish I could have learned from having like a benevolent, amazing boss, but all the bosses I had were terrible. I had to learn the hard way of how I don't want to be. So I'm very sensitive, not via whoever, I think that's especially now. You got to
But
take
not
care
only
of
that, I mean,
people.
everybody who has worked for corporations, I mean, not everybody, but I think a lot of us have had the experience of what a horrible, frustrating HR can be.
Yeah.
When it's really just purely like a process HR. But there are also really good companies with really great HR support teams or
Yeah.
HR teams. So our goal is, well, we are your HR. We are the great HR, but in the Philippines, remotely supporting you and the team
Yeah.
you're building. Yeah.
Amazing. We got a little time left, which means it's time to enter the lightning round. Are you prepared for this, Nicole?
I will do my best.
Let's go. Okay. So we made a great, bull case for hiring VA. Who should not hire talent from the Philippines?
People who are not willing or able to adjust to also different cultures. Filipinos, while they speak English because it used to be an American colony, while they're very westernized because besides American colony, before that it was a Spanish colony, they're still a different culture. They're still Asians. They're still different. So if you're not willing to, if you're going to treat them 100% the same as you would treat somebody, let's say in Austin, then that's going to be likely a failure. So people who are not willing to adjust to work with different cultures and adjust a little bit to different cultures, and the adjustment comes from both sides. Also, the employee needs to adjust, and we help with that too. Will fail. The second ones I would say is people who really go only after the maximum amount of cost saving. So if you really go and you want to have the cheapest of the cheapest, it can work, but it's likely going to be with a lot of friction because you're going to have a lot of churn. You're going to have to keep hiring people. You will be, at the end of the day, frustrated. Plus, I don't think that's the right mindset to build remote teams in the first place, to be very honest. But that's me. I'm biased, obviously.
That's super helpful. The audience of this show loves business ideas. So is there something outside of staffing that you've been like, you know what, maybe I'd work on this? What do you have any business ideas you want to share?
Oh man, that's really hard because right now, especially with AI, there is so much noise going on and so many ideas and so many things that I really wonder, can I be honest? I think actually, if I would ever invent something new, or not invent, if I would do something else, I would most likely look at very traditional businesses and then try to do something there that is more modern or more sophisticated. Give you an example, because AI is really interesting. Like, what jobs are AI proof? Well, physical jobs, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, construction. So I would maybe go into like something very old, traditional that is really unsexy and try to do something there that makes it either more efficient or better for the employees or for employees and the client, something like that. Because I think those are underestimated gold mines, to be very honest.
It makes me think of like an old school job. If you went really old, like a shepherd, you could be like a robot shepherd, and walk the fields with your robots. And then if you needed to transport the robots, you just walk over the area. That would be cool.
Could be.
A robot shepherd.
Yeah, I saw recently, last week actually, I saw a little robot dog, so you can use a bunch of those guys, they at least the sheeps will recognize them as something that they know. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing because we are going to produce all these robots, and you're going to have to, it's like a new agriculture. It's like a digital agriculture. So you're going to have robot farmers, it's going to be interesting. Cool. If you were entering college now, knowing what you know about the future, what would you study?
Most likely something engineering related that will still be needed. Electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, things that will always be needed. And even in electrical engineering right now with all the data centers and all the power needs, I would assume they're super in demand right now. Yeah.
Yeah. You've been you're very successful in staffing. You've been here for a minute. You're kind of a pioneer in the space. What do you know now that you wish you could go back and tell yourself then when you were starting the company?
Ooh, that's a good question. In my case, when we started the company, we focused a lot on the HR and compliance component, which is obviously critically important. What I did underestimate at the beginning because I had never done it myself before, was actually the recruitment side. And recruiting 1, 2 people is a completely different skill set than when you have to recruit many people across different skill sets and jobs. So I think I would have invested a little bit more effort and time earlier in building a really good recruitment team. By now we have an excellent recruitment team, but that came later, and that came because of frustrations. So to be very honest, yeah.
Cool. Is there anything specific, that helped you figure out and kind of crack that code? Because recruiting seems like a very specific skill set, like a challenging one, because there's a negotiation involved. There's also a coercion involved. There's like kind of a romance kind of, How would you go to give somebody kind of an indication of what makes a great recruiter? What kind of attributes do they have?
Oh, that's great. So that's an excellent question. So I went about this a little bit different because I am not a specialist in recruiting. I'm actually not a specialist in almost anything, or honestly in anything. I'm more of an all-rounder. My career was always business development. So what we did, or what I did in that moment, or what we did actually, was to really look for a senior recruiting manager that was actually recommended to us, and then have her bring her knowledge and her expertise and set it up and make it happen. I was honestly finding the right person. And I think that's very important when a company grows and as you go up in your leadership. I think the biggest skill nowadays is really finding the right people and putting those people at the right position in the right place, and enabling them, empowering them to actually do and use their knowledge and their specialty and make it happen. I mean, if I would micromanage them, it would fail because I don't know. They are much better than I am in almost in anything, to be very honest. I see myself more like a coach of a sports team. You take the players and you really try to identify the right ones and put them there. But then they need to execute. Then you need to enable them.
Yeah. Amazing. Nicole, this has been so much fun. I want to give a shout out to an organization that's near and dear to your heart, which is teachforthephilippines.com. Talk to us a little bit about this organization, why it's important to you.
I actually think it's .org, to be very honest, but I need to double check that. Or good question. Is it .com?
There is a .com, but maybe let me see if there's a .org as well, and maybe they're at war with each other. Nope, it's the same thing. It's the same company, but
perfect.
Yeah.
So it's the same NGO. So yeah, they are at the end of the day a group of people. I mean, they're very dear to me because actually my wife is a co-founder of that organization.
Amazing.
Help. So what they do is they bring highly educated young people and make them and certify them as public school teachers. So they pass the board examination, become school teachers, and then under the Teach for the Philippines concept, they're then sent to public schools around the country. That can be Metro Manila, but can also be deep in the countryside. And what is beautiful about that is two things at the same time. They really enable and help improve the education of the kids they teach. But at the same time, you have those young, highly educated adults that are exposed for 2 years on the reality of a lot of the public school kids in the Philippines, because Philippines is a third world country, and you have a lot of areas where schools are little huts or open areas, or buildings which are really basic. And the kids have all kinds of struggles. Some of them need to there is a famous video of Teach for the Philippines where the kids actually need to swim to school every day. So nice. The beauty here is also when you get exposed to that, as you then either stay as a teacher or maybe work in the government or work in the private sector, you will always carry that with you, and you will try to give back to the Philippines and to the communities. And hopefully when those people become senior or business leaders, or maybe one day one of them will be the president of the Philippines, that experience, those 2 years working in those public schools, will make a difference. And you can see that the organization has been around for many years, and you can see that people have moved up the rank, and now they're helping to help write the laws, or to support politicians, or also business people to make things better when it comes to public school. Because schooling for me, and obviously for my wife, it's the critical foundation of an economy. Yes, it's very sexy to help people once they are in college or in high school and whatnot. But by that time, any input you put there has a limited output. But when you get a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, and you enable them to learn and to enjoy learning, that will have a much bigger impact for the rest of their lives. And so that's why it's something I deeply care about. It's really the education is critical, and specifically young kids' education. Yeah.
Incredible. Thanks for doing what you do. It seems like you're kind of a man of mission, economically, educationally. You're building people up, man. I appreciate that. Thanks for that.
Thank you for those kind words. Yeah.
You bet. Nicole, this has been amazing. That's teachforthephilippines.org, which also is .com. You can find it there. We also have Penbrothers.com. What's the best place for people to connect with you online?
Honestly, either LinkedIn or my email, to be very honest. Yeah.
Amazing. And I know we're connected. We will put your LinkedIn in the show notes if people would like to do that. But thanks for coming on the show.
No, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
This episode is brought to you by MoBurst, the AI-first growth engine trusted by iconic startups like Calm, Robinhood, Reddit, Uber, and Google. MoBurst is a digital full-service mobile-first marketing agency that helps companies to scale and become category leaders. Whether you're finding product market fit or ready to accelerate growth, MoBurst delivers creative, data-driven solutions that help with scale and efficiency and impact. At MoBurst, we're not just guessing what works, we're predicting it. As an AI-first agency, MoBurst uses cutting-edge tools to analyze user behavior, adapt creative in real time, and uncover hidden growth opportunities. The result, marketing that's faster, smarter, and built to convert. From early-stage startups to global brands, we've helped hundreds of companies overcome complex challenges, unlock new audiences, and optimize every metric that matters. At MoBurst, we believe that creative thinking, advanced technology, and data are the core drivers of success at scale. If you're serious about scaling your business with precision and purpose, it's time to talk to MoBurst. Visit moburst.com and let's build something category-defining together. All right. Coffee is great, but coffee won't prep your meetings for you. It'll just keep you awake while you panic, hastily scrolling through LinkedIn at 6:59 a.m. Ambient, however, will prep your meetings. Each morning you get a founder-tuned briefing sourced overnight from your calendar, your meeting history, and the web. It's like walking into every call with a cheat sheet that you didn't have to write. No more scrambling, no more guessing, just context, confidence, and focus. And if you're raising money, Ambient investor dossiers are an absolute must-have. You'll know the investor's portfolio, their interests, and their latest moves before you even step into the room. You'll even get a heads up on red flags. Think of it as the caffeine upgrade that your calendar actually needs. Prep while you sleep, perform while you're awake. Sign up for free at ambient.us. Go check it out at ambient.us. That's ambient.us. Hey founders, let me ask you this. Are you building with AI or getting left behind by it? If you're serious about scaling smarter, faster, and bolder, you need to check out aiforfounders.co. It's your go-to resource for cutting through the noise and actually using AI to grow your startup. Each week, AI for Founders drops a sharp, no-fluff newsletter, dives deep with expert guests on the podcast, and hosts monthly workshops where you can get your hands dirty with the real tools and strategies. Whether you're pre-seed or Series B and beyond, launching something new, or just staying sharp, AI for Founders gives you the edge you need to win in 2025